Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and today we are doing our July watercolor calendar project. We're doing this pretty ocean scene because July, summer, you go to the beach, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we are going to be doing this project in 4 steps. So our very first step is we are going to do our sky. Our second step is we'll put in our clouds. Our third step is we'll do our water, and our fourth step is just any finishing details.
Sounds good.
If you guys don't know, we do a series every month. We release a tutorial on YouTube of a calendar painting. And these are watercolor calendars. So this is watercolor paper. So we can like make our own calendar.
Excellent.
Which is so great. And the other great thing about this is it's not dated. So you can reuse it. You can give it as a gift at the end of the year. You can keep it for yourself. I know a few people who have purchased multiple and they are painting every month with us. And then at the end of the year, they have these gorgeous gifts that they can give family members or friends. So it's been really fun, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I really love doing it. Okay. I'm listing all of the supplies that we're using in the description, but of course, please use whatever you have and do not let the lack of supplies or different supplies stop you from creating, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what the supplies are. Okay, let's do our oath. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me, I promise to be kind to myself.
Sorry.
You okay?
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay, now, 2 things that you might want to have handy is we are going to try using some cling wrap for the water texture a little bit. So I have some of that ready, cut and ready to go because I struggle with cutting it. So I always like pre-cut it. And one thing I'm going to do before I paint my sky is I'm actually going to utilize tape for my horizon line here. I'm trying to be a little bit more brave and use tape in my paintings instead of just on the border. So what I'm going to do is I've already taped off the edges of my calendar, and then I'm going to decide where I want my horizon line to be, and I'm going to put my tape on top of that line. So I'm going to go about here. Does that look straight?
I feel like the left side is going down.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
And then you can, before you tape it, you can just take a paintbrush or a finger and just kind of measure it. It's about even.
Perfect.
All right. Okay. Oh, wait. Nope.
What?
Nope.
What happened?
I always do this. We're painting the sky, so we need to put the tape in the water area.
Got you.
We can do this. Okay, there we go. There we go. So then from the top of this tape line down will be our water portion. Okay?
Love it.
Okay. I'll put my little clip back on. And I just use clips just because paper likes to curl when it gets wet, and then especially when I use my heated craft tool. So sometimes I just use little paper clips to hold it down. Okay. Let's do this. So you can take a quill, you can take a large round, really whatever brush you have. And I'm just going to wet the sky portion. And you want to make sure that your tape is taped down all the way around the edges, so no bleeds happen. Sometimes I'll even tape underneath this little hole thing so water can't like go through and bleed to the other side. Sometimes I don't because I'm feeling edgy. Okay. Now I'm going to take Cobalt blue. If you don't have Cobalt, you can use any type of blue. And I'm going to put it along the top here. And it's just going to spread out in that water. Then quickly I'm going to rinse my brush. And I'm going to grab like a pinkish, so some coral.
Coral.
Where's your mother? Mix it with a little bit of Q purple. And then now I'm going to go to like an orange. So I have a little bit of Q burnt orange, a little bit of Q gold. Put that down. And then I actually like to lift my paper for skies now. It really does make a difference. So
And the-
you guys can decide how like colorful or basically the type of sunset. So if you want the sun to be setting and being really dramatic in sky, then you're going to be using a lot of like Q golds and Q burnt oranges and some Q coral. If you want it to be like really soft, then you're going to be using more purples, more pinks and peaches. And lift your paper back and forth like so. So then that color can just kind of bleed through. And already this is getting a little bit darker than my reference, but that's okay. And then I'm going to do one more loop of the blue at the top. Oh dear.
Oh no.
That's all right. Just blend it out. Okay, so now I kind of just work the paper back and forth, side to side.
If you're new here and have no idea what's going on, it just makes it smooth gradients, right?
Mm-hmm. And then because we're using lots of water and because we're picking up our paper and having all the color kind of gather, you're going to get a bead here of paint. You just take a clean, damp brush and you just barely touch the bristles to that edge. And it's going to soak up that bead of extra paint so you don't have a weird muddy color edge or a weird bloom. You sometimes have to do it a couple of times to get all of it. And then you put it the other way. And you see that by kind of moving it all around back and forth, it's much easier to get a smooth wash. We call it, what do we call it, honey? Gravity gradient?
Gravity gradient.
Gravity gradient. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch to a brush that doesn't hold as much water. So I've been using a Quill. Quill holds a lot of water in paint, which is great when you're trying to paint a large amount or you just want to keep going. Now that I'm going to do clouds, I want to grab a brush that I'm going to have a little bit more control over in terms of how much water and paint that I'm picking up. So I have a long round 10 here, but a round 6 would also do great. And then I'm going to put in some clouds. I like to do it while my sky is still fairly wet. And I'm just kind of making sure that any color is just kind of spreading throughout. That's why I haven't laid it down yet. Okay. All right. Now for the color skies, again, if you want it more sunsetty, your clouds are going to be orange, yellow, pink. If you want it really soft pastel-y, like the sun has already set or is starting to set, you're going to do blushes, peaches, purples, okay? So I'm gonna grab kind of like a peachy color and just right here while it's wet, I'm gonna start putting in my clouds. Now, before I do that, I'm gonna actually soak up some of this paint right here so I don't accidentally rest my hand in it or smear that color.
Which happens all the time.
Which literally happens like every day of my life. So I'm trying to be better about getting that out. Okay, peachy color, swoop. Let's add a bit more yellow to it. And what I love about sky colors is if you do one and you're like, oh, I want that to be a bit more like yellow or purple, then you can just grab it and put it on top or make the next cloud more of that color. And it's okay. Like clouds come in all different shapes. Don't be too scared. And then I'm going to have like one kind of coming up here. That maybe was too pink. That's okay. You can just blend some of that color out, like so. It kind of softens it. Now, because we're doing wet on wet here, a lot of the times these clouds are just going to softly diffuse out, which I like. I like that look, so that doesn't bother me. Sometimes, though, then I have to go back in and just kind of do another layer. And also, if you're just like clouds and me, don't put them in. It's fine. You don't have to put them in. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm slightly angling these clouds this way, and then they're going to start doing this as I get closer to the horizon line. So as I get closer to the horizon line, I'm going to grab a little bit more of that yellow or burnt orange color. Swoop that in. And then here, this is where it's going to go horizontal.
You said it in other things, but that makes like the illusion of a huge sky, right?
It makes the sky appear vast.
Yeah.
So it makes it look like we're seeing a lot of sky that goes for a long time. If the clouds are not slanted and just kind of more on top of each other, it's still going to look like a sky. It's just going to look like a small portion of the sky. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Also, one last thing that I'm going to do while I'm going to play with colors here. So you can, I'm adding a little bit of like this orange color here. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Ugh. Okay. And then this is a little trick that I just started doing that is actually like makes a big difference. Is right on this horizon line, my paper is still wet. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of that cobalt blue with my Q purple. So it's just this really pretty like lavender kind of color. And I'm going to take that color. I'm just going to drop it right on the horizon line. And I think it's because atmosphere itself has a color. So usually above a cityscape, above water, there's just a little hint of like blue or purple. And it's really pretty. And I do that as my last step because I want the paper to be a little bit more dry. I don't want it to be completely dry because I want it to diffuse in, but if I do it while it's super wet, then that blue purple is going to push like around the sky a lot, and I want to keep it close to that horizon. So if you just do it when your paper is like halfway wet, then that's where it's going to stay close. You still might get a bloom here or there or a hard edge, but I don't get mad at blooms. I think they add to painting, so I don't care. And then if you want to add a little shadow on your clouds, you can, or if you really like the soft diffuse look, then do not. Oh, it's so pretty.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay.
That horizon line does add a lot. I like that already.
Does it?
Yeah.
Doesn't that?
It does look like that in real life too. It looks like mountains in the far, far, far distance.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know what it is, but it really does add. Okay, now that my sky and clouds are done, I'm going to dry this with my heated craft tool. Or you can let it air dry, whatever you want. And this is where if you don't have your paper clipped down, your paper is going to start to curl up when you dry it. Okay, once it's nice and dry, I'm going to let this cool just for a second, and then I'm going to remove this tape and then move it into the sky so we'll have a clean edge for our water. And then this is an opportunity if you need to straighten anything, then you can adjust your tape to straighten if you need. Now, when you remove tape, Holbein soft tape is the best luck I have with not tearing my paper. However, I've noticed if it does tear, it's always right at the beginning. It's not like halfway through. So the very first kind of part of peeling away, I have found to be the most important. So that's where you want to be the most gentle.
Dang, nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, nicely done.
Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to tape the top part so we can paint our water. So I'm going to you can reuse that same piece if you're feeling brave. I don't like to because sometimes I'm afraid the adhesion to the tape has worn off too much that I won't get such a clean edge. Mm-hmm. There's usually paint on that, and most likely I would smear that into it. So and then when you apply the fresh roll of tape, I'm going to go a tiny bit into the horizon line. So then there's no white line between. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
This is the scariest part of like putting tape over your painting, but I'm being brave and I'm trusting this Holbein soft tape, and I've done it a couple of times and it works fine, but every time I do it, I'm like, scary. Okay, now we are going to paint our water, and I want to make sure I have some cling wrap ready. If you don't have cling wrap and you don't want to use it, that's fine, don't use it. It's just a fun technique that I think I saw another artist, Karen Rice, use on an Explore page or something where she put cling wrap for the water. And I was like, genius, I want to try it. Okay, I'm going to use Phthalo, which is a very, very, very bright blue. And if a little bit of like green gets in there, I'm not mad about it because I really like a turquoise water. And then I'm just going to start doing horizontal strokes. Now notice that my brush is dry, so I'm getting this kind of scratchy texture, which I really like for a water scene. So I'm gonna keep it. However, I think if the paint is too dry, the cling wrap is not gonna do much. So it's up to you how scratchy you want it to be. Just make sure you go all the way to the tape edge on the right, top, left, and bottom. And the worst thing that can happen if your tape does bleed is you just have to move your horizon line up, okay? So that's what the risk is here. Okay, so I have a little bit of glare in there. Now I'm gonna take my cling wrap, put it in and kind of pull it to the right, or like kind of stretch it across so we can get some horizontal textures instead of just vertical. Sometimes I'll use like my nail to create more. And let's just see what that does. So we let that dry. I will say that in my example here, it did some textures, you can see it. And then some of this I dry brushed on after. So again, cling wrap is one of those things where like, depending on how much paint, water, all of that kind of stuff, it's gonna have different effects. You never really know. There's nothing wrong with taking it off, loving it and leaving it, or taking it off and being like, all right, let's add a little bit more texture and we'll just see what it has to do. So we'll meet you back here when this is dry. Okay, I think it is dried. Let's see. So I'm gonna pull up a corner, like test it, or like what you do is you like push into an area where you see like some dark paint. And if the paint moves underneath the saran wrap, then it's not dry yet. If it stays still, then it's safe. Sometimes some areas are more dry or wet than others, but let's go for it. Ooh.
Cool. Super cool.
Okay, very, very cool. And then now, just any finishing details, this is where you can take a round 6. You can still use your round 10 or 12, whatever you want. But basically, I like to just grab a really strong blue and just in the foreground here, just do a few just dark strokes. Like so. It's going to add more depth to our painting. And also, it will, like if there's any like white gaps to your paint edge, we want to make sure we get those. So in the same way that like for our clouds, our bigger clouds are on the top and then they kind of get smaller as they get to the horizon line, the opposite is true for the water. So the thicker, darker shadows for the waves or whatever are going to be in the foreground. And then as they work their way back, they'll get thinner. So you can just do a couple just a couple little dry brush strokes in there. Just going to give you a little extra sense of depth. And again, making sure that you're going all the way to the taped edges. Okay, now this is the scariest part.
Peeling the tape off the paint.
Peeling the tape off, please.
Holbein, come on.
So gentle. Please be a clean edge.
Sarah, I've never been more impressed. I've never been more impressed.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did it.
That was like, I was holding my breath.
I was too. I didn't say a word. Okay, and then one last thing I'm going to do is I didn't like how dark this got back here. So I'm just going to blend it out, but I'm going to be so careful because my tape is gone, so I don't want to paint into the sky. And if you don't like how light this is, you want to soften some of it, you just take a damp brush. Or if you like it, you leave it. Okay. But sometimes I like just having a little bit of a lighter value just to hint that like this is water and water reflects light, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's dry it and then we'll remove all of the tape and then we'll go through our calendar so far.
Exciting.
Super exciting. And also, this might give you a little hint as to what we'll be painting together in July.
What could it be?
I wonder what it is.
I feel like this calendar painting is nice because it could be, you could also add so many things to it. You know what I mean? You could put a
Yes.
little boat, you could put birds.
Birds. You could do a little sand bank right here, angled in. And also, just by the colors that you choose, it's going to give a really strong indication as to the light. Like, for example, and if you want this to be brighter, you take a little bit of Q gold or just a yellow, and then look at how much that now looks like a setting sun.
Oh, yeah.
Because we added that little swoosh of yellow. So you guys can make changes after if you want. Just remember that they're not going to diffuse out. They're going to stay nice and sharp, which is sometimes nice if you're looking for like that kind of sun look. And then I like to just kind of wet it and then drop in like a strong yellow. There's the sun, you know, like, or if you don't like that, just blend it out and not have a sun.
Right.
I just love that skies give you so much like flexibility. Okay. Let's remove tape.
Are you going to taste it, see if it's dry first, or?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Be very careful. There's nothing like a clean edge on a watercolor painting.
2 clean edges.
4 clean edges.
We could keep going here.
We could. Just one more. Again, the beginning peel of the tape is where I have found I tend to tear if I do, but it's pretty rare when I tear.
Boom.
Oh, July.
Lovely.
Stunning.
We're going back through the rest?
Yeah, you want to do it?
Yeah.
All right. Let me make sure that we have January.
Lovely.
February.
Super lovely.
March.
Incredible even.
April.
Joy-filled.
May.
Extravagant.
June.
Awesome.
And July.
Stunning.
Stunning.
Oh, that was a lot of positive words. I was running out.
Good. Okay, if you liked any of those projects, then they're on our YouTube. Feel free. You can jump in and join our calendar painting party anytime. And these videos will stay up here. So even if you don't have a watercolor calendar and you just want to make a cute ocean card, do this on any size paper and you'll be fine. If you're interested in these calendars, we have them on our website, letsmakeart.com. Thank you so much for joining me. This truly is one of my favorite times of the month is adding to our watercolor calendars. It's just fun. And if you want to see or communicate with a very kind and supportive watercolor community, you can join us on Facebook. That's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. It is a private group, but that's just so we can keep out bots. So we do have some questions, but again, it's because we want real people joining us. And then you would be part of a very large, kind watercolor community. So I hope you join us. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye.